Alright, see how it spins with the spark plugs out.
I do this side, and you do that side.
What are you talking about? Well, no, I mean it's going to just slow down. Yeah, because when we put our fingers over there, we're creating the compression that's having trouble with. You should be able to do this. It's not. See how the thing kicks out like it's supposed to when it spins fast enough?
Yeah.
Do this much good if you can't do that.
Could we test if there's any spark?
I can almost guarantee you there's no spark on this thing. Well, right now the wires are disconnected, but even if we hook this up, I bet you there's no spark because the points underneath here are probably going to need to be cleaned and set. Let's see.
It's a new starter.
Well, there's one other thing we could try.
What?
There could be resistance, electrical resistance maybe built up in the circuit, because the way the starter works is it has to ground to the block of the motor, and then the motor has to be grounded to the tractor, which is happening through this cable right here. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And so we should try and clean the connections where the starter mounts to the block, and then clean the connection here where this attaches to here, and then that comes up and goes to here. Clean that. Probably wouldn't hurt to clean all of these connections. So let me go get the wrenches. We'll take the battery out. We'll hook everything up the way it's supposed to be hooked up. All right, so what we're doing is we clean this up. We cleaned up this contact surface here because the current path through the starter is the voltage comes in on this, which we cleaned, attaches here to this area, which we also cleaned, and then flows through the starter and back to ground through these contact points where the starter is mounted. So we clean where this bolts up. Then it's going to go through basically the block and back to ground towards the battery's negative terminal. And that can happen one of two ways. It can either go through the battery, not the battery, it can go through the cable that goes to the negative terminal on the battery that's bolted to the top at the manifold, but it can also follow a path through the frame of the tractor because the block is bolted to the tractor. The reason why I know that they're using the frame of the tractor as a ground is because the solenoid return path to ground is where the solenoid is bolted to the frame of the tractor. So if we want a really good connection, we want this to be clean, we want the cable battery connections to be clean, and we also want the block to have a good connection. So I already cleaned the underside of the mount here to where it's going to mount and be bolted down to the actual frame of the tractor. So hopefully that'll give us a lot of good return paths for the little pixies to do their job. So we can put this starter back in now. I also cleaned off some more of the grease that I had on here. I really regret putting so much grease on there. That's not, obviously that has nothing to do with our current problem, but still it's something we can take care of easy enough. So I did it. And oh, I forgot to clean this side. I'm going to clean this side too, because when the nuts are screwed onto the studs, actually I didn't do a really good job cleaning these studs. I'll do that too. All right, Mark, so we've got all of the connections cleaned. We even put in the bolt on the motor, one of the bolts to mount the motor in there. We cleaned up all of our connections, all our ground connections, all of these connections. So now, if the starter's good and everything else is got good connections, it should work. The other possibility is the contacts inside that solenoid could be a problem, okay? Well, we could bypass that. You know, like I said, we'll find something, a piece of metal that I can use to jump across that so I don't ruin a screwdriver. And then the other thing is too, these cables. These are actually replacement cables I replaced quite a few years ago, but they could be bad again. We could have a bad cable. Sometimes what happens is corrosion gets down inside the cable and you get a spongy area of the cable, and you know it's inside there that the copper wires are all green and have high resistance. But let's see, we got it all hooked back up. Oop, we got it all hooked back up, so I'm going to put on the little jumper for the seat switch. All right, I'm going to turn the key on. The key's on.
Maybe we forget to hook it back up.
Not going to worry about it because we're not using it. It is hooked up though. You know what? That should be clicking right now. Why is that not clicking?
Oh yeah, another problem.
Doesn't matter. It's not bad.
It's not swinging back where it's supposed to be.
If the motor starts, what'll happen is this will do this. See, as soon as it moves, that'll fling back.
Can I twist it?
That if you help.
No.
Why?
Why do we want to waste the battery power we have in there? Why don't we see if we can get spark back? If we can get some spark out of this thing, we could throw a little bit of gas down the intake and see if it pops off.
And then you can have.
I mean, there's no reason why it shouldn't. If we get spark, we have compression, it should work. But I know that will probably get you all excited, so.
Okay.
Make your little day. Right?
Yep.
All right, so in order to figure out what's going on with the spark, we've got the ignition coil conveniently falling on the ground over here. All right. Okay, so let's take spark plugs out. Put them in there. Actually, we only need one out to test for spark. The way this is a dual ignition coil, it sends a spark to both spark plugs at the same time. Even though this is a 4-stroke engine, and when this is on the compression stroke, this one isn't, it still sends the spark there. It doesn't have a distributor. It doesn't, in a car, like in a car, a multi-cylinder car, there's a thing called a distributor that goes around and it makes sure the spark goes to only one cylinder at a time at the right time. But on these tractors and a lot of twin cylinder tractors, they just use a dual coil like this, and also a lot of Harley Davidsons use that same system. All right? Okay. No, you should put that on your tongue. Get a good
Right here?
your tongue. Wet it. There you go.
No.
Hold on, I'll crank it. All right. Now, this probably would be a problem.
It might be.
Yeah, I think we need 12 volts going to this.
No, we don't.
Right, which is going to be the easiest way to do that is going to be just to hold it on here when I crank it. Okay.
Mark.
So
Want me to crank
what
it?
I'm going to do? No, I'm going to crank it, and we're going to look at to see if we get a spark there. No spark.
Wait, try it again.
No spark. I'm not surprised.
So what do you think's wrong now?
Well, could have a bad coil, but most of the time it's the points that are underneath here are dirty. So, you got a regular screwdriver that'll fit that?
Yes.
Handy, Aiden? No, that's huge. Come on.
Look, or
It will work, right?
flathead or
No, you see it doesn't fit in there? Go
Flathead?
ahead and ruin the head of the screw. Go ahead.
flathead?
Don't call him that. He's sensitive.
Yeah.
You flathead. Touch me with my
Don't
oil.
touch me with your free cans.
Freak. Nice. All right, so under this cover mark are the points, and what they do is they act like a little switch, and there's a little rod that goes down inside the engine and it runs off of the camshaft. There's a lobe on the camshaft that pushes that little rod up and down, and that's what closes and opens the points. And every time the points are closed, what happens when the points are closed, the battery charges up the coil. And this little part here called the condenser. Okay?
Yeah.
They, in conjunction, the coil, which is an inductor, and the condenser, which is a capacitor, they form what's called a tank circuit. And what happens is, all you need to know is that when that charges up to the full charge, and those points open, that causes this to discharge its voltage rapidly into the primary of this coil, which will induce a high voltage in the secondary of the coil to make the spark. Got it?
Yeah.
It's really high tech. They've been doing this since, I don't know, probably like the 20s or the 30s. Voila. So, if you look real carefully, right here, you can see there's actually, oh, there's a little piece of garbage up there. There's the points. Are right here, you see it?
Yeah.
This is the little post. Okay. So if I open this up, those are the contacts right in there.
Too bad.
They're not bad, they're just a little dirty. Okay?
How are we gonna clean them?
We're gonna get a little piece of emery cloth, rub it in there to clean them. Actually, really fine sandpaper or emery cloth. And we'll clean them. Then we'll use a little contact cleaner, because the grit from the cleaner, from the emery cloth, will be on there. We'll clean that off, and then we'll see what happens. We'll see if it works. The replacement engine, the engine that came out after this one, that Kohler came out with, I think it's called the. This is the KT17. I think it was called the M18. So it's supposed to be like 18 horsepower. But one of the big improvements they did to that engine was they got rid of the points and they added electronic ignition to it. This actually has the pistons and rings from the newer engine because they fit perfectly.
So you decided to just buy those?
So actually the displacement of the cylinders and everything is identical between the KT17 and the replacement, the Magnum, I think they called it, the Magnum 18. And the reason why, even though the displacement's identical, the reason why they were able to get a little bit more horsepower out of it was just other improvements that they made, supposedly. Either that or they're just lying. I don't know. The ratings. Companies play with the ratings on their stuff sometimes.
Sometimes.
So all I'm doing is I'm just dragging this paper through there. Alright, so that takes care of that. Now I'm just going to spray this. I'm going to open this up and spray this cleaner on there. That'll wash away any of that grit that was on there. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to hold this on here. Can you hold this on here like that?
Like
You got to make sure that this is grounded to there. See the thread?
I can't like this.
To this.
Like this.
Yeah. All right. Ready? Actually, I don't even need to crank it. You know what I can do? I can hold this on here, and if I open and close these points, it should spark. No, we're not going to get anything because this broke off.
I broke off the start.
Oh, it broke off the coil right here. Just now. Ah, alright. We're going to fix this connection. Grab me that blue handled nut driver. Alright, so I got the new I terminal on here. Okay, Mark. I'm going to put that back on there like that. So I don't even need the key on because I'm putting 12 volt connection directly to the battery terminal. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And Now, like I said, if I open and close this, we should be able to get a spark. And we're not. Could be that that's in the open position right now. In other words, they might be already open. Let's see. Alright, that's open. That's closed. Right there. So, let's try our little,
Magic trick again.
yeah, little trick one more time. Nothing.
What are those two wires? Those don't really matter.
Something's wrong. What?
These two wires. Well, I just realized those might be for something else.
Yeah, what we're gonna do, what 2 wires? Those will go to the alternator. Remember I told you about that yesterday when you guys asked about that? Alright, Mark, so we're still not getting any spark after cleaning those points, so we're gonna try and figure out what's going on with this thing. So I think the first thing we'll do is we'll check the continuity of the points to make sure that they actually are closing. So I should get continuity between ground, which is this bracket where it's mounted to the tractor, and here. So this is, see, that's good. That's not. So those points are not making contact. All right, that should be closed right there. We're not getting anything. Let's try cleaning them again. All right, now after re-cleaning it, we get continuity. See, and when I open them, stops. See?
So spark should happen now.
So now it should work. Let's see. All right, so they're closed now. We're gonna put the 12 volts to it, and then when I open this up, it should spark.
There we go.
You see a spark
Yes.
there?
Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't see it from the angle I was looking at. Thought I could hear it.
Okay, watch. I'm gonna put it to this way now that you do it.
All right. Oh yeah, okay. We got spark.
Shocked me too.
Well, if you don't have this grounded well to here, like if you lift this off, then the voltage wants to go somewhere, it'll just go through you. Give you a little, how do you do?
So let's put these in and then put a little gas in and see what happens.
Yeah.
Daddy, you want it? I help mom with the groceries.
That's the plan. Alright. I don't know how good this gas is that I just grabbed. Let's try it. So I hooked the wire back up to the key switch, so we should be able to run this off of the tractor. Alright. So I'm just going to give it a little bit of a squirt down there and a little bit of a squirt down there and see what happens. Rather unimpressive.